just sit down and think, wow, the timing of that is so surreal. That's kind of a moment that I had earlier today because recently I was thinking about making a video talking about the upcoming year in Call of Duty and everything that would come along with 2019 and the rumors of Modern Warfare 4 versus a Ghost 2 versus an Infinite Warfare 2, whatever the title may be for this year. I decided to hold off on that a little bit, and actually it seemed to work out quite well because as the past 24, 48 to 72 hours, we ended up seeing a couple of things stir up the rumor mill in terms of what Call of Duty 2019 may be, and more specifically, the rumor of a Ghost 2. So today we're going to talk about not only that rumor, but also where we can end up seeing this go as results and debunking or maybe confirming some suspicions you may have on any of the titles. So that's it, let's just jump right into it. So this all started on New Year's Eve. Ashton Williams, the communications director at Infinity Ward, kind of went on a little bit of a tweet spree and had a bunch of GIFs tweeted out relating to skeletons, a little more spooky atmosphere, and also some ghosts. And that was something that really jogged everybody's attention and really got people thinking, and that curious group of gamers all started to think, well, maybe this is a tease for Ghost 2. You might have been seeing people mention this yourself, either on Twitter or some of the other content creators that you enjoy watching, but before an industry insider came out and reported a little further on this, which we'll get to in a second, I personally wasn't really ever going to comment on it because that art style, that aesthetic, that's totally just Ashton. Having met her many times, wonderful person by the way, it's not a teaser in any way, shape, or form, that's just the art style she's into and just a little misinterpretation of the tweets. But not really having to wanted to toss that line out there just based off personal knowledge, the timing, like we said, was kind of impeccable. Today, an industry insider and Kotaku reporter, Jason Schreier, replied to a thread talking about the tweets and the potential for a teaser to the game, with 2019's title being Ghost 2, and simply replied, "It ain't Ghost 2. Now, his word, unlike many other anonymous reporters you'll see on 4chan, Reddit, wherever it may be, he actually has a very credible background in something that has given him a little more prestige within the community and of course the gaming industry as a whole. So for him to put his credibility and his name on the line here for this, I'd be willing to bet that he's got at least a fair level of information that gives this some more accuracy to it. So for this, it's not just some random Joe Schmo posting on the internet that just made an account yesterday talking about how it's not going to be Ghost 2. To me, this kind of makes sense. And if one person's input isn't enough to sell you over, and that's totally fine, I'm totally all for believing in things by corroborating stories, very similar to how any journalism or news outlet would like to do so, but just simply taking the word of one person away, one industry insider out of the picture, to me, I just don't think it would be Ghost 2 because it wouldn't sell. Granted, if we look back and if you even take a look at some of the people in the community now that played Ghost in its prime, they may look back and say, you know what, that game really wasn't all that bad because comparably at that time, it might not have been everybody's cup of tea. You had games like Modern Warfare 3, like Black Ops 2, right before that that really set the bar very high for Call of Duty. When you take a look at games like Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, those advanced movement games that kind of pushed away the hardcore Call of Duty fan in recent years, well, there's a reason why people may have gone back and said, you know what, maybe we gave Ghost a little too much of a hard time. So while people might not necessarily think about Ghost as being all that bad in retrospect, it wouldn't really sell because of just the connotation that came along with it, especially at that time. That name still resounds as kind of a negative connotation. And that's also ultimately why I don't think that they would ever touch the water of Infinite Warfare again. Truth be told, I don't think the campaign was all that bad. I don't think the gameplay itself was all that bad. For me, personally, I got burned out on it because it was very similar to Black Ops 3 and in some cases identical, but a lot more fluid. If you were to take a look at the thruster movements, Infinite Warfare's was, I think, definitely better than Black Ops 3's, but it was just the same thing year after year, so therefore, I wasn't as interested in it. And I know that some people definitely weren't as well, or they just never gave it a shot. But those two franchises, I don't think would even sell, so therefore, what's left? Well, Modern Warfare 4. Which is interesting because we've already seen talks about Modern Warfare 4 within the Call of Duty space. We've seen the industry reports suggesting it'll happen, we've seen the insiders saying that it will be Modern Warfare 4, but of course, we won't have anything concrete until around April or May of this year for a reveal, and at which case, we'd maybe see our first leaks and teasers as of late March or early April. I don't know if we'll see it comparably to the time frame we saw Black Ops 4, because that was the earliest we ever got any sort of official tease, any official reveal, and therefore Black Ops 4 4 also launched a month early, so we may be going back to our November timeframe here at this with whatever Modern Warfare 4, Ghost 2, or Infinite Warfare 2 decides to be within fall of this year. But it's also interesting because as of last March, we may have seen our first sort of solid reference to this. I'm not saying any sort of confirmation or leak or anything like that, but the Activision's earning call last year with then CEO of Activision, Eric Hirschberg, discussed the upcoming 3 years by saying, "It's suffice to say that I think we have the best 3-year slate in Call of Duty's history," which is really saying something given this franchise's history. Which he then followed up with, "I think we've got multiple different game universes that we know our players love on tap, so obviously more to come on that." So while at first this might seem like sort of an empty statement, you have to keep in mind this was pre-Black Ops 4 tease and reveal, so we had no idea Black Ops 4 was going to be the title for this year. We could of course infer, like we are doing right now, that it would be that title, but we had nothing that really said so set in stone. So that's 1 year out of the way. It may have been referring to World War II, the dubbed homecoming of COD, which, no matter your preference on Sledgehammer's last introduction into the franchise, the game was all about boots on the ground combat and a return to that sort of roots where COD was combined with that World War II setting, all with a new approach of the individuality of how players could approach the game on their own terms, or potentially could reach out to the next year following this in 2020, where Sledge's next title would presumably be placed in the timeline. But that also guaranteed the encompassing, no matter what way you spun it, on Infinity Ward's next title. And the big thing to notice is the quote that says, "different game universes that we know our players love on tap." Not we think they'll love or we'll hope they'll love, but we know our players love. So Black Ops 4 accounted for some of that, but the next universe known by all and historically in sales is the most popular universe in the COD franchise, that's the Modern Warfare universe. So it's very likely the possibility of Modern Warfare 4 was confirmed in that aspect as early as last March, so maybe we end up seeing a return to that series come this fall. And there's one big competition piece out of the way with Ghost 2 out of there, which helps bolster the idea even further. And then also when you consider the fact that this really should be a big hitting year for Infinity Ward given the reception on Infinite Warfare and also Ghosts back in the day, well, they definitely want to hit one out of the park. So the best way to do that is the one that guarantees will hit the heartstrings of players and of course sell tremendously well, Modern Warfare 4. An additional food for the theorists out there, you guys remember that Modern Warfare 2 Remastered listing on Amazon around the summer of last year? Many thought we'd get Modern Warfare 2 Remastered and then Modern Warfare 3 Remastered this year to build it up. That's not happened since, so who knows? But talking about remasters, what are the chances that we get one? What are the chances we end up getting another remaster with Modern Warfare 4? Because we saw Modern Warfare Remastered with Infinite Warfare, but that was likely not really the case to stop the bleeding, but instead to make up for sales in terms of reception for Infinite Warfare. This is all complete speculation. None of this is in any way, shape, or form confirmed. The talks and theories that I've heard is that the game had to be drastically changed around the halfway point of development, and so therefore that's when Modern Warfare Remastered was greenlit, so theoretically that makes sense. If you have to make a massive change that would affect the main product, you'd want to make up some ground or offer something else that helps alleviate that sort of maybe stress of not having the final product where you wanted it to be by a certain point. So therefore Modern Warfare Remastered was greenlit, so maybe sort of making up for that. But regardless of the reasoning, this caused a large schism in the community for the player base. You theoretically had a 50-50 split right down the middle of players, and truthfully, even though I found a match with ease on each game, that might not be the case depending on your area, time of day, and it very well could have been full lobbies of sweats each time. But no matter what way you spun it, it was definitely different from a launch compared to, say, in August and September. It thinned out drastically, and that was something definitely noticeable, and with a split between two games, would that be something that they want to do again? Because from a publishing and developing perspective, I can't imagine that anybody would want to willingly split a player base, and from what I've heard and the whispers on the down low, I heard they weren't really a fan of this, so will they do it again? So how likely is it? Because while it makes sense not to, is there anything that says they have to? And that's where we kind of come back to the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered rumors as of last year. If you guys remember, last year, again, it was leaked on Amazon, and the big question mark was this real? And since we haven't had any release on it since, is it still anything that we can think about? We had some credible people staking their reputations on it, so I was inclined to believe it, but of course nothing ever happened of it. So what's the big status on that? To pitch my thoughts, I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but then pulled, and a lot of people kind of believe that, but probably for different reasoning. A lot of people may think that because it was rumored to be campaign only, they pulled it, they scrapped it, and then they were working on Modern Warfare 2 Remastered and having multiplayer plus campaign and Spec Ops, the full offering. But the things I heard are a little different than that, and I can't really divulge too much information, but due to a potential conflict of image and affecting sales, that's one of the things that I've heard rumors of it actually being a reasoning why it wasn't ever released, which again makes sense from a business perspective, but who knows if that's actually the case. But regardless, when it comes down to it, there also is supposedly contracts in place between PlayStation and Call of Duty for these remasters, starting with Modern Warfare Remastered and presumably up until Modern Warfare 3. So by that account, they kind of have to, don't they? Or would this theoried Modern Warfare 2 campaign only remaster be sort of that loophole where you don't have to split the player base, but you still fulfill your contractual obligations to remaster a title, and therefore you can also build up by giving Modern Warfare 2 and 3 a remaster for the campaign, leading into the events of Modern Warfare 4, kind of as a little refresher, or potentially even just for anybody that really wants to play it again on new hardware. If that's the case, we're probably going to see that in the next couple of months, a prep and reveal of that and also a full official release of it, plus then a few months later, the theory release of what will be Modern Warfare 4, so it'd be curious to see how this all works out and if any of these end up actually happening. But all in all, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up here. I wanted to kind of touch base on pretty much everything regarding the topic, all stemming from this newest rumor that a lot of people are starting to talk about Call of Duty 2019 with, in the idea that it's Ghost 2. So I don't think that's going to be the case. I also think that it's going to be Modern Warfare 4. We'll see in time. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys think? What do you think is the logical choice here to release for 2019's Call of Duty? What do you want to see? And also, what do you think of the idea of remasters coming as well? Do you think we're going to get some here in the next coming months or whatever it is? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Call of Duty Black Ops 4 as of right now. We're going to be getting back to the regular scheduled content with that starting tomorrow. Multiplayer, Blackout, Zombies, we got you covered, the best of all that kind of stuff. So if any of it interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever that may be, links are down there in the description below. Well, that's it out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.